for being like the only guy that returned my phone call when I was graduated, worked at Little Caesars, reaching out to every school. He's the only person that hit me back. And I don't forget that, and the loyalty that he's given to me to be able to promote me to a spot where I got to be the offensive coordinator for the last couple of years at Iowa State and have success. So it didn't necessarily matter. It was Penn State. Obviously, it's awesome because this place is incredible, and it's a school that you dream about when you're a small school guy. Like I played at Division II, and you watch, as a kid, you watch Penn State football games and the history here. You know about it. You certainly, even the idea of coming and coaching in a place like this, it's so far-fetched. It doesn't even enter your mind when you're, where I was at before. So when he told me that was the school, I couldn't wait to get here. Obviously, with the tight end history and the history of the people that are here and what Coach Paterno did here, it was very exciting. But my loyalty is to Coach Campbell and what he's done for me and my family, what Erica's wife's done for my wife and the wives of our staff.
You mentioned tight ends.
Upstairs or on the field?
I'm going to be up in the box. Yeah, I need to be as far away from cameras and stuff like that as possible. I need a little desk workspace, sticky notes and pens and pencils and the iPad stuff. I like having a workstation.
Coach Campbell mentioned that it's going to be a bit of a year getting everyone unified again because you're bringing a lot of new players, especially on the staff. What does that look like for you with the tight ends in that room?
Yeah, I told those guys we kind of have like a Brady Bunch situation. We got 3 Penn State and 3 Iowa State, and the idea of all those guys meeting each other, I think, was harder than those guys actually meeting each other. Like, you forget when you get 18 to 22-year-olds that have all these different things in common, you put them together, like, they get along pretty good. When you actually get them around, they're like, oh, you like football, we like football. You like video games, we like video games. You like, wings, and they connect. So for us, like, the idea of, the Iowa State guys coming was this thing, and for the Iowa State guys, the idea of going to Penn State was a thing, and just getting everybody in front of each other, it made things a lot easier and I think, like, the Penn State guys, once they learned, like, we're not bringing guys that don't fit you guys in here. Like, we're going to bring guys that will celebrate your touchdowns more than you do, that are checking the character boxes of guys that you want to go to war with. And that really helped the tight end spot. And then offensively, it's kind of been the same thing. But I think between myself and Coach Clanton and Coach Polly and Coach Waters and the support staff we have, like, I think we do a really good job of creating camaraderie. We do, music trivia, and keep it loose, but we do have high standards and things like that. But we give the guys a chance to be themselves in an area that's not just football all the time.
You mentioned the Caesars and your journey with Matt. Have you had to take like a moment to soak in the fact of where you are now and what this means to you and how far you've come in that time?
Yeah, I haven't had a ton of downtime just in the last 3 weeks. There certainly has been like some flights where you are tired and you're on like your second connection somewhere or another, and you're in a rental car at 1 a.m. driving through Kentucky or something like that, and it could be easy to get frustrated at things like that because you're tired, but you're like, I get to do this because I'm the offensive coordinator at Penn State. Like, I don't have to do any of this stuff. Like Coach Campbell always says, the greatest power you have is the power to choose. And like, I chose to do this. I never in a million years thought I'd be able to do this. So like, it's an awesome opportunity. Everybody, would kill to be in the shoes that I'm in, and as tired as I am, and eat the peanut M&Ms as long as I do on the road. So I need to have more moments like that where I can reflect, and hopefully after I get moved in, I get my family and stuff out here, I can, have a moment on the couch with my dog where I can just breathe and, soak it in a little bit. But there's always something to work towards. There's always like something you're worried about from a recruiting, from an install, from, something like that that keeps your mind at focus. But I've tried to, remind myself that a few times.
Now that class is back in session, you guys have had a chance to go to a number of games, experience maybe what it's like to be here at Penn State. What has that been like, and has it lived up to maybe what you've seen on TV, now being a part of this community, particularly 75,000 in Beaver Stadium for a hockey game?
Yeah, to say that I was blown away by what the hockey game was, just what the community was. Like, you come in here in the stadium when it's been empty, and we brought the wives up here when they were here for the day, and recruits, but when you get up and you see the energy of the fan base, and people tell you about it, and until you get people here and you see what athletics mean to this place. And even like, I watched the hockey players come off the ice. They just lost tough overtime game. Like, all those kids thank Pat Kraft for what he did, and thank Vinny. Like, it meant a lot to those guys to do that, and it stood out to me a lot. And I've been a fan of Penn State hockey for a long time, and I got to meet Guy, and I was so excited to meet the hockey staff. Like, I'm a hockey guy. My dad worked in hockey growing up, and we didn't have it in you know, at Iowa State. So to go to those games, see what like the student section looks like at those things, to see what the fan base and the kids and, you know, the student section of this place, like, I've been to a lot of sporting events. I've been to the Masters. I've been to the Super Bowl. Like, I'll put that hockey game. I haven't been to a football game here yet, but I'll put that up against anything that I've seen in sports. With the energy, with the passion, with how people play. Like, just there's a connection you could feel that goes beyond just people watching sports.
Is that what makes this place different then?
Yeah, so far it does to me, and I think we had that at Iowa State, not nearly on the, you know, as many people, but the people there loved watching the players, and there was a connection there. Here, you certainly feel like there's an investment in the people, in the relationships that the fans have with each other, and what the tailgate scene's like. There's just, in the history of this place, I think it's what makes it special, and then some, and different than, you know, 99% of the places out there.
And how important is it then for your players to understand that, right? Not all of them come with Pennsylvania ties,
Yeah.
but to understand this place, the history, like, is that important to this staff to preserve that?
It's huge. Like, I told those guys too, like I said, like, you know, this is not Iowa State, like, but you come play at Penn State because of the history of what this place is and the people that have walked through the doors and the walls, you know, before you. When you're in that locker room downstairs, it says the great players that have worn your jersey. And like I told the guys, you know, and even the guys that are coming back, like, we're gonna make a big deal on the history of this place and the lineage of this place. And like, you come to Penn State because you want to be part of a fraternity of greatness, of all Americans, of history, of, you know, championships and things like that. So I think that's a big deal. It's a big deal for me. I want to sink my roots in as far as we can go with this thing.
Coach Campbell mentioned in his press conference that your last couple of years in the Big 12, teams are starting to play like you with more tight ends.
Yeah.
Penn State's played with tight ends for a while. You're obviously aware of that. What is it about tight ends that's making a comeback, it seems like, in college football? What is it that they do? And as a tight ends coach, like, how do you leverage those players to create the offense you want?
Yeah, I think when we first got to Iowa State, it was really like the end, or like, you know, towards the end of like the air raid era of the Big 12. And coming from Toledo, like, we were a 12 personnel team. We got there, we didn't have any, there was no tight ends on the roster. We're able to build that, and Coach Campbell wants to, you know, run the football and be physical and things like that. And the unique thing, I always felt like the tight ends are kind of like the Swiss Army knife. Like, they give you size mismatches in the pass game, they add gaps in the run game, and probably the difference from the Big 12 to the Big 10, like, the defensive, you know, versatility that we saw from a schematic standpoint, the Big 12 was all over the place. We ran the 3-3-5. Then that went through a wave in that conference, and it kind of phased out, especially with us having Coach Veit here now. And then to be here, you see, I always like to see, like, our team's going to match personnel when we get big, because we can play in 12 personnel and be in open sets. We can be in 13 personnel and play in open sets. So we can kind of force the hand of what we're going to see with, you know, what defenses are going to show us, in my opinion, because you watch NFL games, when you get to 12 personnel, a Sam linebacker comes in or a D lineman, you know, comes in, and when you get to 10 or 11, they bring a nickel in. For us, like, we could do everything in our 10-11 sets that we can in 13 and 14. So I feel like we can kind of dictate what the personnel of the defense is going to be, and force those guys to have to make some decisions of, you can't practice all those things on a nickel base and with an extra D lineman. And it's easy for us because we're running the same plays, just with different personnel groupings and things like that. So I kind of feel like they're the Swiss Army knife of college football a little bit. You can, you know, be unique to be able to dictate what the defense does with that spot.
Tell me, what's the genesis of your scheme? Like, who are your influences? Where does it come from?
Yep. So we want to be what I call is like a spread pro offense. Just if you're watching NFL, we want to be, you know, similar to what the Los Angeles Rams are, and probably what the Colts are, from just like a bare bones structure of what the offense is. We want to be able to play multi-personnel, multi-tempo, and then with having Brock and our relationship there with what the Niners do, we do a lot of that stuff. And then Coach Campbell's roommate in college was the Eagles head coach, so there's just a lot of different flavors of what we want to do, but in general, we're like a spread pro team that wants to run the ball, create explosive plays in the pass game and on the ground.
Who are your mentors in building it, like the people that you specifically?
Yeah, the mentors that I would say are Tom Manning with the Indianapolis Colts. Like, that guy's been huge for me. Nate Shieldhouse is another one that's with the Rams now, that he was the offensive coordinator after Tom was, and was only there for a year, but him and I coached together for a long time, and we're always bouncing different, you know, ideas. They got into 13 personnel a lot last year, which was awesome to see, and to be able to talk through some of that stuff. But those are guys we're always asking questions on, and trying to, ask for help. Coach Campbell went to the Patriots and hung out with Vrabel with his Ohio roots. So we're a very, very curious offensive staff. We're trying to, watch as much tape as we can. Everybody on our staff, every offensive coach has an NFL team we study, a college team that we study, and, high school coaches that we like to talk to because they're always on the front edge of stuff too. So I think for us, our whole thing's always been players, formations, plays. Who are your players? What are your formations? And then in those formations, what are your plays you can get to? Because 2 years ago, we had those 2,000-yard receivers with Jaden Jalen at Iowa State. And before that, we had Charlie Kolar, who was, one of the best tight ends in college football last year. Our 2 tight ends were our leading receivers because those were the best guys. So this offense is going to showcase the most trusted guys on the offense, whether that's wideouts or running backs or tight ends.
You got a lot of talent on the offensive line. Obviously, some guys that don't have a ton of experience. But what does that group in your mind, as you're sitting there looking at it now, what does that group allow you to do? And is it any different than maybe what you would have done last year or the year before?
Yeah.
Did they unlock anything for you?
Absolutely. I think when you're as athletic as those guys are up front, you're talking about Donko, that guy's a circus bear. He's so light on his feet. He's huge, and he's got one of the biggest smiles of anybody I've ever been around in football. Huge heart, great guy. And then you talk to a guy like Cooper Cousins, who eats nails for breakfast. Massive human, road grader. When we met with these kids the first week we were at Penn State, a lot of it was feeling him out of tell us about yourself. And he was like, what's your favorite run schemes? That's what he asked me. He was all about, wanting to know, what I was about in the run game. That guy's a guy that's about putting the ball down and going and, being physical. So I think the athleticism and the size of those guys, and a guy like Trevor Burr, who came from Iowa State, who was one of our best linemen, if not the best, is exciting to be able to, the level of physicality those guys want to play with. When you look at those guys, they look different. And Malachi Goodman's a guy we didn't get guys like that at Iowa State, to nobody's fault. But Coach Clanton can't stop talking about that guy and just what his potential looks like. So I think high-end potential with those guys, and they're excited. A lot of them, fresh start for a lot of those guys to go out there and just put the ball down and be physical.
Earlier you mentioned and talked a little about the history that Penn State has with tight ends in the NFL.
Yeah.
Going into the new season, what are you doing to prepare to continue the legacy?
Yeah, I have told those guys, we send them a different tight end that we have in our group chat every day. And I like to send those a phone number of that guy, whatever. The last couple of weeks I've reached out to all those guys and want them to come back and be involved here, And there's a long list. I don't have to read them all right now, dating back as far as I could get cell phone numbers for them. And send a fact about those guys, send the phone number back. And I want, like I said before, don't come play tight end here if you don't care about the people that have done it before you and the greatness. And there's a level of expectation that comes with that. So I'm going to hold you to a standard of greatness at that position here. So don't come here and miss class or think you could just skip out and get an omelet or get a bagel instead of an omelet. No, the standard at tight end here is being the best that you could be in all phases that you could do it. And the standards here are going to be better than anyone else on the team. And obviously there's some other positions that have a lineage similar to tight ends here, but don't come play here if you don't want to be a part of great standards and great accountability and championship habits. So it's everything that they do has to bleed into what those people have sacrificed for this place.
How well do you think your offense is going to translate into the Big Ten?
I'd be naive to tell you we're going to come here and do exactly what we did at Iowa State. We game plan and we scheme everything up for the defenses that we're going to see. There's going to be a level of physicality and a level of effort that everybody here is going to recognize from the get-go. And I don't know how pretty it'll be to start, but those guys are going to play hard, and they're going to play fast, and they're going to play nasty. And whoever goes in there, if you're the Z or if you're the center, you're going to block your ass off and do whatever it takes. So I think just from a level of physicality and toughness, you see what Indiana did, those guys, it's a tough football team. It's a physical football team. You ain't going to win in the Big Ten if you ain't nasty, physical, run the ball, take care of the football. And whatever our plays are going to be, we're going to make an emphasis on doing that.
Obviously, you've had time to scout the wide receiver room here and what it looked like the last couple of years. How do you bring that room back? Because Matt just talked about the fact that was a strength at Iowa State. And where do you think it needed to evolve maybe here in 2026?
Yeah, I think that's been something that's been, obviously a thing here. It's a thing in recruiting when you go in there that kids want to know about it, and you try to tell them like what we did at Iowa State, and I think that speaks for itself. Whether we were at Toledo with, going back to like Alonzo Russell and Eric Page, and then the Alan Lazard, Akeem Butler, Hutchinson, like we've been able to get those guys the ball without having to overcomplicate things. And for those guys, like you're coming back, like it's a fresh slate. It's a fresh slate for us to do this, where the guys that do it are the guys that, like I said, are the most trusted at practice. Like we make a big deal. Like if you drop the ball in practice, the whole offense does an up down at the end of practice. So like there's elite standards and expectations for throwing and catching the football here. We go out there and routes on air. You don't just go through the motions. Like every single ball that you, like in your mind, it's 4th and 5 with 110,000 people out there. Like that's the expectation of practice that I have, because a drop affects all of us. It affects you guys, it affects me. Like the guys have to understand that. And that's the expectation we're going to bring to the pass game. And all we can do is show them what we've done. And obviously our personnel is going to, dictate what we do in the pass game. But I think with what Coach Campbell's offense and our offense has shown is that we can, get guys the ball outside and at receiver and be able to come here and be coached by great people that I care about what the input of those guys is. Like, there might be a route that they really liked in high school. Like, I'm going to run what those guys, the routes that they run the best. Like, I'm not going to come here and, like, the top third down that we call is Rocco's favorite third down. Like, we scheme it, you know what I mean? But I think it has to cater to what the guys like too.
How much? Go ahead.
What makes Noah such a good developer of wide receivers?
Yeah, I think his ability to establish like a connection with those guys, because at the receiver spots you got egos and things like that normally more so, and he's able to connect with those guys and have hard conversations. Like he coaches those guys hard. He really digs a mile deep into those guys, and he's as passionate of anybody that I've got to coach with, and I think his guys see that. And he'll follow those guys around practice, throwing balls just to make sure they're catching balls, they're engaged in it. So he has a connection with those guys that's special, a connection with me, a connection with our staff. He's, vocal about what he likes, but he doesn't have an ego in it to where it's like, yeah, Coach Pauly, I don't really want to get to that play right now. He doesn't take it personal. So I think the upbringing that he had, being a really good D2 player, then an FCS player, and then, now being at a school, at Iowa State, Penn State, he's worked his way up because of the kind of guy he is, which makes it easier to coach those guys hard.
You mentioned
going back to Coach Campbell. What should alumni and fans know about him that maybe they're not going to see on TV, or that might not be obvious that you see having coached with him for so long?
Yeah, I think just the heart that guy has, the outreach that guy has, like the first and only not selfish, but decision that he's made for himself was to come to Penn State. And it was really hard on him for the reasons that he knew it would affect everybody. But he cares so much about, his high school coach comes around to the facility all the time. His college coach comes around. His teammates come around. Like, he cares about the connection with people. He cares about, he doesn't want football to use our guys. He always talks about that. Like, don't let football use you. Like, you have to use football. And I think he likes that. That's what it makes the sport unique, is that, that it's not perfect and there's 22 people on it all the time. And there's so much history here, and him being from this area, and I'm from Ohio, so it helps when you can come and be at a place like that. But just kind of like what I was saying with like tight ends, like don't come to school here if you don't care about the people that played before you. Like, you can't come be the coach at Penn State if you don't care about like the history of decades and decades and decades of sacrifice, and like watching the stadium get built. I saw like a video of just like how that's changed. It's changed because of what people have sacrificed at this place to make it special. And he knows that, and our guys will play harder because they know like the Letterman Club here is different than anywhere else in the country. Like, they take care of the people here. So like you have to go out there and play to respect what those people have done. And Coach Campbell cares about that, and we're constantly reminding our guys of that, from our staff to our players. Like, it means more, it's different.
You mentioned the receivers maybe having a little bit of an ego at that position just naturally. How much in your offense of like having fun, putting good football out there that receivers want to play in, how much do you think is that a part of the success you guys have had at Iowa State of attracting guys that can go out and do it? For sure, yeah. I think to kind of get back to what I was saying, like, you like having those guys. Like, I'll sit some of those wideouts down and be like, what's the first play you guys want to start the game with? Like, and I'll read a couple and see what they say, and I'll pick it and we'll run it. So I think like having those guys, like, from an investment standpoint, where they can come up and talk to the offensive coordinator and we can run what they want to run, and they're excited about it. Then when it doesn't work, like, they're not upset like, well, we should have done this or done that. You're not pointing as many fingers, and the guys will block a little bit harder, because we do ask a lot. Like, we're not
RPOs every single time like some people. Like, we're going to try to cover hats up and have the running back, go and run somebody over at times or make somebody miss. And, like, those guys are going to know, like, it's going to work in the play-action pass game because of the people blocking for you guys. And they're not naive to that. And it starts with understanding the whole why with everybody behind all the plays. But I think, like, the connection we have from a game plan process, having the coaches involved in the game plan and assignment-wise, having the players, like, sometimes on third downs, like, those guys will come off and tell Coach probably, like, the corner's sitting and doing this. Like, well, you might not have a play for that on our game plan. We're going to have to run this. So we'll come out the next play and do that. And I trust those guys to do that, and they know that. And I'm not going to get mad at them when we go and do it and it's something different because it's football. It's not perfect. And I trust those guys to be able to make suggestions like that in big games because I know what their investment level is for the other 350 days of the year where we're not in that, in a game day. Like, if you don't catch jugs and you're not doing everything right living in the room, then I probably won't listen to you and stuff like that. But you also won't make it here if you don't.